Come to our today's presentation on computer studies 451/1, that is the theory paper. I'm your facilitator today and my name is Angela Musyoki. Welcome. Then let's now move on to another thing. What are the topics that can be tested in the exam? This is just the syllabus of computer studies. We have Form 1 syllabus, whereby we have the first topic, which is Introduction to Computers. In Introduction to Computers, we have definition of terms. We have other things like we have the generation of computers. We have classification of computers. From there, we move on to the computer laboratory, whereby we have the safety measures, and then we have again the precautions that are meant to protect the users, and measures that are meant to protect the computers. Then still on that, we move on to practical hands-on skills, whereby we look at the booting of a computer. Those are aspects that you should understand as a candidate. Booting of a computer, the computer keyboard. We also have mouse skills. Then from there, we have the second topic, which is computer systems. Computer systems here, we're going to look at the elements of a computer system, which are the software, hardware, and the computer user. Majorly here, when we look at the first things that are covered there, it is now the hardware, categories of hardware. Basically the input, output, central processing unit, and the secondary storage devices, which carries a lot, and every candidate is supposed to understand what is in that, and any question can be tested from all that. Then we also move in, still in the computer system, you must understand what we call the computer software, the categories of computer software, which are the application software and the system software. You must understand all that. Everything that is contained in that topic, you must be able to understand and answer a question that is tested in that topic. Then next we have the operating system, definition of the operating system, the resources under the operating system control. Again, we have the functions of the operating system. We have the classification of the operating system. We have how Windows organizes information. Like there we have the factor that determines how an operating system organizes information. Then from there we move on to files. There's much about files. Then we move on to folders. Then again, you should also be able to understand how they operate the managing files and folders using the operating system, like the aspects of naming, there's the aspects of copying, moving, and many other aspects. Then the other part of the operating system that you should also be able to understand is also now the disk management using the operating systems. Under disk management using the operating system, there are the aspects of formatting. What's disk formatting? The partitioning of a disk. What's compression? What's scanning of a disk? And in scanning, you know that we can scan for viruses, and we can also scan for minor errors and disk-related problems, and many other disk management functions that are done by the operating system. So if you know all that in Form 1 work, then you are a prepared candidate. Then now again, we move on to the Form 2 syllabus. In Form 2 syllabus, there is the application theory. The application theory, these are the 4 applications that you learn. These applications are only not tested in the practical dimension, but they are also tested theoretically. Like, for example, you can get a question from a word processor, concepts of word processor, all the way from the introduction and advantages, the formatting, which encompasses the text formatting, paragraph formatting, page formatting, all that you need to understand as a candidate. Again, issues to do with mail merge. Again, issues to do with inserting graphics. You also need to understand the theory that is there. Again, issues to do with printing. You need to understand issues to do with the printing. Another application question that can be tested can also come from spreadsheets. Spreadsheets, there's a lot that you need to understand there as a candidate. Like, for example, the introduction of spreadsheets, that is definition of spreadsheets, definition of terms, components of a spreadsheet. You need to know about the data types that are used in spreadsheets. And as a learner, at this point, you are not supposed to confuse the data types that are used in spreadsheets and the data types that are used in databases. You need to understand very well which are these data types that are used in spreadsheets and which are these other data types that are used in databases. Like spreadsheets, we have only 4 data types, which is we have the label, we have the formula, we have the function, and many others. So you are supposed to understand all those data types. Again, you are supposed to understand the formulas and functions. How do you write a formula? How do you write a function? How? And again, the cell referencing. Remember, when you are writing a formula or a function in spreadsheets, we always use the cell references. We don't use the actual values. Cell references are the ones that are allowed to be used in a formula or a function. Again, in this case, you should also understand the syntax. Then from there, we move on to databases and application theory again, whereby you can be tested on the definition of terms that are used in databases, database models, database objects, queries, and what have you. Queries, reports, forms, and all that. So you need to understand all that in the database. Then from databases, we move on to DTP, whereby you are supposed to understand all the aspects of DTP, starting with the definition, types, and terms used in DTP. Mostly here, they are the terms that are used in manipulating a graphic. And again here, you should also understand the icons that are also used in manipulating a graphic. Like there was a certain year whereby there was testing an icon for text wrap, whereby the candidate was required to name the icon and to state the function. So as a candidate, you should know all that. Then again, we have a topic of data security, which is a common topic that you should also understand as a candidate. Issues to do with data security and how data can be protected against unauthorized access. Then next we have the internet and email. There's still a lot of theory in internet and email that a candidate should be able to understand. You can get a question from internet and email. Then that's all about Form 2 work. Then we move on to Form 3. What questions can you get from the Form 3 syllabus or Form 3 work? You should prepare yourselves on data representation. From the introduction of data representation, then definition of terms, you should be able to prepare yourself. Then you should be able to prepare yourselves on the number systems. Which are these number systems that you should prepare? All of them. You should be able to prepare the binary, the decimal, and others. You should also be able to prepare about the advantages of binary and other things that you should also be able to prepare yourselves on. That is conversions, converting from one number system to another. Calculations are also major in this area, whereby you are expected as a candidate to be able to do binary arithmetic, that is binary subtraction using the direct method. You should also be able to do the binary addition using the direct method. Again, here you should also be able to do the subtraction using ones complement, and again subtraction using 2's complement. And in that case, as a candidate, you should be able to know at which point do I ignore the overflow, and at which point do I add the overflow back to the answer. Like in ones complement, when you are doing the binary subtraction using the ones complement, if you happen to have an overflow bit in your answer, that overflow bit is handed back to the answer. But in 2's complement, if your calculation has an overflow bit, you are supposed to ignore that overflow. As a candidate, you should understand that. Again, in data processing, you are supposed to know about the coding schemes. As a candidate, be able to know the 3 coding schemes, how many bits do they use to represent data, and many other information on that. Then we have a point here, another topic, elementary programming principles. This is a topic that is majorly tested in question 16, whereby you are expected to give some questions can be in the form of theory, and others can be in the form of the algorithms, that is the pseudocodes and the flowcharts. Another topic that is of great concern in Form 3 that you should also prepare on is system development, starting with the definition of the system, characteristics of a system, and information system. Why do we need to develop, or what leads to the development of a new system? Then you should be able to know all that, theories of system development, and again, the stages of system development. What happens at each stage of system development? As a candidate, you should be able to know all that, such that when a question is tested from any of those stages of system development, you are able to tackle it. Then now that's all about Form 3. Then now we move on to Form 4 syllabus. Which are the topics in Form 4? You need to know about the data communication, definition of terms, advantages of networking. You need to know issues about the communication media. You also need to know issues to do with the network operating system, that is under networking software, and you also need to know issues to do with the topologies, the advantages of topologies, the disadvantages of topologies, how to describe which of those topologies, how can you represent those topologies in a diagram, and the parts that are in those topologies, like for example, the one that we have seen before, whereby you are required to answer or to name, like this one. In this case, is a candidate where you are required to identify the parts. This is a question from data communication and networking. This is a topology, a bus topology. Like part B, where you were supposed to name, which is a terminator. So as a candidate, if you have read about topologies, you are able to name that part. Again, you can be asked about the functions of those parts. So now, after that topic, we have the next topic in Form 4, which is the application areas of ICT. You should be able to answer a question from application areas of ICT, whereby as a candidate in this area, a question that tests you from application areas of ICT. This is a question that you should answer, and your answer should contain these 2 points. As you are answering, you should check whether does your point or does your answer contain the use and technology. If your answer does not contain those 2, then it's not a good answer. It's not a right answer. So the right answer in this area, application areas of ICT, should show the use and the technology. Like for example, how are the computers used during voting process? So you can say like they are used to register candidates, they are used to register voters by use of biometrics. Actually, the use is registering, and the technology is biometrics. So the answer should imply the use and the technology. That's when your answer is right. Then you should also know about the effects of ICT. That's also something that a candidate you should prepare on. And finally, you should also be able to give the careers opportunity in ICT and be able to also show, let's say like for example, what are the functions of a database administrator? You should be able to state those functions. What are the functions of a network administrator? As a candidate, you should be able to give the functions of those people, let's say like those specialists, database administrator, network administrator, all those you should be able to give. Then in a question, you should also expect questions on emerging trends in ICT. Like for example, now I'm presenting to you using Zoom. Zoom is an emerging trend in ICT. So let's say like for example, what are the advantages of using Zoom to teach students? You should be able to answer that question. It's an emerging trend in ICT. Another question can also be tested from your daily experiences in the process of interacting with the computers. Like for example, there was this question whereby the candidates were told that the computer is not, in sleep mode, but the hard disk light is blinking. What could be the possible reason for the hard disk light to be blinking? So as a candidate, you should now be able to know. You have interacted with the computer. Like what can make the hard disk light to be blinking? Let's say like there are some background activities that are running the computer, like for example, there's a network access that's taking place. Like for example, there's a virus that is executing itself. Those are some of the background activities. Those are some of the activities that can be running and the computer is on sleep mode. So you should be able to know those daily experiences that you see as you interact with the computer.